Welcome to this deep dive, crafted specifically for you, drawing from the insights you wanted us to explore. We've got a fascinating couple of topics on the table today, both pulled directly from the sources you shared with us.
That's right. You steered us towards the unfolding contract situation with Cincinnati Bengals defensive end Trey Hendrickson, and then we're shifting gears to the New York Giants and their potential quarterback pick, Shedeur Sanders. It's a look at two very different pressure points in the NFL.
Absolutely. And as you might notice, there's a special atmosphere in the studio today, surrounded by some truly amazing artwork. This is all thanks to my son, Madden, who, though not physically here, is very much with us through his incredible drawings and animation. Today's World Autism Awareness Day, and we wanted to celebrate Madden's passion and extraordinary talent. His artwork will be a vibrant backdrop to our deep dive.
It's wonderful to have Madden's creativity enriching our conversation, a really meaningful addition to our discussion today.
Okay, so let's get straight to that first issue you highlighted. Trey Hendrickson and the very public airing of his contract frustrations with the Cincinnati Bengals. He recently appeared on the Pat McAfee show, which, as you know, is a pretty direct conduit to a massive audience.
No doubt about that. And Hendrickson didn't really hold back. He laid out his concerns, quite frankly. What's interesting here is that his public stance could signal a shift in how veteran players approach contract negotiations, perhaps, increasingly willing to use media to apply pressure.
That's a great point. He spoke about what he perceives as poor communication from the Bengals organization over the past couple of months. For a player at his level, that kind of silence, well, it can feel pretty significant. He also mentioned a lack of direct contact with his agent, which just amplifies the sense of disconnect, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And what really stands out are the specifics he mentioned regarding prior discussions. He stated that both last year and again at the Combine, the team led him to believe that a new long-term contract with guaranteed money was in the works for this year, contingent on his continued high level of play. This suggests a potential breakdown in trust if Hendrickson feels those assurances aren't being honored.
Right. He essentially said, go out and perform, maintain your level, and we'll make it happen. That sets a clear expectation, at least from his perspective. And the fact that this sentiment was apparently reiterated at the Combine suggests this isn't like a recent development.
It certainly sounds like he feels a commitment was made and isn't being fulfilled. He also emphasized his and his agent's willingness to engage in open communication with the team, even throwing in the detail about having the same cell phone number since high school, a little personal touch to underscore his availability. This raises a question: why the apparent communication breakdown?
Exactly. It was almost a touch of humor amidst the frustration, highlighting what seems to be a readily available line of contact. Now, the analysts over on NFL Live had some immediate reactions to Hendrickson's comments, and they brought up a few compelling angles.
What aspects of their initial response struck you as particularly relevant?
Well, beyond the initial lighthearted comment about his enduring phone number, one of the hosts suggested that the roots of the situation might trace back to earlier remarks from Katie Blackburn, hinting at a possible, behind-the-scenes narrative we're not fully privy to. This underscores that public statements are often just a glimpse into much more complex ongoing negotiations.
Precisely. And if we think about the broader context of NFL contracts, Hendrickson's situation isn't unique. Players often see their peers, perhaps with similar or even lesser production, securing lucrative deals.
Yeah.
This creates a natural expectation and potential frustration when their own contract status isn't addressed. The NFL Live crew touched on the idea that Hendrickson has likely been patient and is now feeling a sense of urgency.
Absolutely. The dynamic of perform and be rewarded seems to be at the heart of his frustration. When that implicit agreement feels like it's shifting, it can breed resentment. And as they pointed out, the lack of communication, which Hendrickson himself stressed, seems to be the primary catalyst for his going public. This highlights how crucial transparent communication is for maintaining positive player-organization relationships.
This brings up an important point about the organizational implications. If Hendrickson's account is accurate, it could reflect poorly on the Bengals' communication practices. A disconnect between what players are told and what actions are taken can erode trust, not only with Hendrickson, but potentially with the entire locker room and future free agent targets.
Without a doubt. It sends a message, whether intended or not. The NFL Live discussion then pivoted to the potential draft ramifications if this contract impasse continues. Replacing a player of Hendrickson's caliber is a monumental challenge. He's the consistent, high-impact pass rusher, a rare commodity in the league.
And finding that level of production and experience in the draft is far from guaranteed. While they might find a talented prospect, expecting them to immediately replicate Hendrickson's impact is, well, unrealistic.
They did mention a few potential defensive line prospects at pick #17. James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee, noted for his athleticism, though perhaps not as stout against the run. Mike Green from Marshall, who led the nation in sacks. And Mike Williams from Georgia, a player with high expectations dating back to his high school career. However, as the analysts pointed out, these are projections, not proven performers like Hendrickson.
Which reinforces the central point. The Bengals' top priority should be to find a resolution with Hendrickson. He's a proven high-talent, high-character player. Landing such a significant contributor in free agency as they did with him is relatively uncommon. They essentially hit a home run, and now they need to secure their investment. Allowing him to walk due to a contract dispute could have significant negative consequences for their defense.
It could also create uncertainty among other defensive players, potentially leading them to question their own future contract situations. Okay. Let's now shift gears and delve into the second topic you were interested in. The New York Giants and their ongoing search for a franchise quarterback, specifically in the context of Phil Yates' latest mock draft. This is a perennial discussion point for the Giants and their fans.
Absolutely, and the stakes are always high when a team with a top draft pick is evaluating quarterbacks. The pressure to get it right is just immense.
Right. And this conversation also unfolded on NFL Live with the added dynamic of Mel Kiper Jr.'s presence, which always injects a certain level of Kiper-esque analysis into the mix.
He certainly isn't shy about his opinions, is he? So what were the top 3 selections in Field Yates' mock draft 4.0 that sparked your interest?
At number 1, Yates projected the Tennessee Titans to take Cam Ward, the quarterback from Miami. The rationale centered on Ward's dynamic playing style, strong arm, and the Titans' current quarterback depth chart. That seems to be a fairly consistent projection in recent mock drafts.
It does. Ward has generated a lot of pre-draft buzz. What about this second pick?
At number 2, Yates threw a bit of a curveball, having the Cleveland Browns select Abdul Carter, a pass rusher from Penn State. The reasoning highlighted his impressive sack numbers and the potential of pairing him with Myles Garrett to create a truly formidable pass-rushing tandem. Given the premium placed on edge defenders in today's NFL, the logic is sound.
It could certainly elevate the Browns' defense to another level.
Okay.
And then we arrive at the Giants' pick at number 3.
Exactly. At number 3, Field Yates has the New York Giants drafting quarterback Shedeur Sanders. This is where the conversation really intensified, as you can imagine. It's a complex equation with considerable debate about whether Sanders is the right fit for the Giants at such a high pick.
And it's worth noting that Giants head coach Brian Daboll recently addressed the topic of adding young talent, specifically mentioning the quarterback position and their current roster of 3 quarterbacks. While expressing confidence in their current group, he also, kept the door open to potentially drafting a quarterback, leaving all options on the table.
Precisely. He didn't rule out any possibilities. Now, Mel Kiper Jr.'s reaction to the Giants potentially selecting Shedeur Sanders was, well, classic Mel enthusiastic and opinionated.
I can only imagine. What was his take?
Well, he started with a bit of playful breaking news, declaring Madden's artwork as the new number 1 on his big board, surpassing even Travis Hunter. So, Madden, you've officially earned the top spot on Mel Kiper Jr.'s esteemed rankings.
That's great.
But then he delved into his actual analysis of Shedeur Sanders, and his feelings were overwhelmingly positive. He even drew a comparison to Patrick Mahomes, while also emphasizing the crucial role of the offensive line, something Sanders' college line struggled with. This highlights a key question. Can Sanders thrive in the NFL without significantly improved protection?
That's a critical consideration. Absolutely. A quarterback's success is so heavily reliant on the stability of the offensive line.
Kiper then rattled off some of Sanders' impressive college statistics. His high completion percentage and strong touchdown-to-interception ratio. He confidently stated his belief that Sanders has the potential to be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, describing him as a surgeon in the pocket. He went as far as to say that if he were the Giants, he would absolutely make that pick at number 3. That's a strong endorsement, but it's interesting when you consider other reports suggesting the Giants might be leaning in a different direction.
It is. And Kiper himself acknowledged Adam Schefter's report, indicating the Giants might not take a quarterback at that spot. This flurry of information just before pro days adds another layer of intrigue. Kiper mentioned he would be attending Sanders' pro day, which will undoubtedly factor into his final mock draft decisions. He also pointed out a significant discrepancy. Sanders is currently ranked 16th on his personal big board, making the number 3 pick a considerable reach according to his own evaluations. This raises the question, is the perceived need for a quarterback outweighing traditional draft value in this scenario?
Exactly. He underscored the inherent risk of passing on a potential franchise quarterback with consecutive top 6 picks, especially in a league where that position is so pivotal. While acknowledging that Sanders might not have the same high grade as some of the top quarterbacks from the previous draft, like, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May, his central argument was that the Giants desperately need to give themselves a chance to find their long-term answer at quarterback.
And he brought up some cautionary tales of teams that overthought the quarterback position and ultimately regretted their decisions, emphasizing the importance of conviction when you identify a player you believe in. He also highlighted the competitive landscape of the NFC East, with talented quarterbacks already in place for their rivals, as another compelling reason for the Giants to prioritize finding their own long-term solution. This underscores the urgency the Giants might feel.
It sounds like Kuiper sees high-end potential in Sanders, even if his evaluation process for him has been somewhat unique. He even called Sanders the most challenging quarterback evaluation he's undertaken since he began his career in television, which, well, it speaks volumes about the complexities surrounding Sanders' projection to the NFL.
It really does. And adding another layer to this intricate evaluation, Dan Orlovsky shared his perspective on Shedeur Sanders, raising some really thought-provoking points.
What were his key takeaways from his film study?
One of the first things Orlovsky pondered was whether Deion Sanders, Shedeur's father and coach, would even want his son to land in what could be perceived as a challenging situation with the Giants, given their current roster and offensive line. That's an interesting angle to consider the family's perspective on the ideal landing spot for his development. The support system around a young quarterback can be incredibly important, right?
Absolutely. Orlovsky then delved into the film itself, observing that a significant portion of Sanders' throws in college were at or behind the line of scrimmage. He attributed this largely to the offensive scheme at Colorado and, perhaps more significantly, to the struggles of their offensive line. This severely limits the opportunities to truly evaluate a quarterback's ability to make high-level throws downfield against tight coverage.
That's a crucial point. If a quarterback is consistently under pressure or only making short, safe throws, it's difficult to gauge their arm strength, accuracy on deep balls, and decision-making under duress against NFL-caliber defenses. It just doesn't give you the full picture.
Exactly. Orlovsky felt this limited sample size of truly evaluable NFL-level throws makes it a much more challenging assessment. However, he did identify positive traits in the limited opportunities Sanders did have. His timing, ball placement, rhythm, and ability to maneuver within the pocket to avoid pressure. So, flashes of high-level potential are there, but the consistency and volume of those throws are a concern.
So there are glimpses of the talent, but the surrounding circumstances in college may have both inflated some statistics and obscured some potential weaknesses.
Precisely. Orlovsky also raised concerns about Sanders sometimes appearing to focus primarily on his exceptionally talented teammate Travis Hunter, perhaps overlooking other open receivers. Additionally, there were instances where Sanders seemed solely focused on evading pressure, which, while understandable given the circumstances, makes it harder to fully assess his downfield vision and decision-making. It paints a picture of a quarterback with intriguing tools, but one whose college environment makes for a far more complex evaluation.
That's the crux of the matter, really. It's a much different evaluation than quarterbacks who operated behind more stable offensive lines and had more consistent opportunities to make a variety of throws. Now, let's bring this back to the Giants' specific situation. We know that owner John Mara has publicly stated the organization's primary goal is to find their quarterback of the future.
And there's certainly pressure mounting on general manager Joe Schoen and Coach Dable to deliver positive results this season, which likely played a role in their acquisition of veteran quarterbacks Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. Those signings provide a veteran presence and some potential short-term stability at the position.
Exactly, they offer bridge. However, the underlying need for that long-term franchise quarterback remains the paramount concern. And as the NFL Live analysts noted, the level of involvement from ownership in the evaluation of Sanders, including their planned attendance at his pro day and a private visit, underscores just how critical this decision is viewed within the organization. This isn't a decision being taken lightly.
It highlights the immense importance of the quarterback position in the modern NFL. Even if there are other highly talented players available at pick number 3 who could address other needs, the potential to secure a franchise quarterback is an allure that's just hard to resist.
And there's a significant risk in passing on a quarterback you believe in. If the veteran quarterbacks perform adequately but not spectacularly, It could lead to the Giants having a lower draft pick in future years, making it even more challenging to acquire a top-tier quarterback prospect down the line. It's a gamble either way, isn't it?
It really is. The potential advantage of drafting Sanders, even with the questions surrounding his college situation, is the opportunity to have him learn and develop behind experienced veterans like Wilson and Winston. This could provide him with the time and space to adjust to the NFL without the immediate pressure of being a Week 1 starter.
That developmental aspect could be crucial for a quarterback transitioning from such a unique college environment to the complexities of the NFL game.
Absolutely. So as we bring this deep dive to a close, we've examined two distinct but equally critical narratives in the NFL landscape. The contract standoff involving the Bengals' premier pass rusher, Trey Hendrickson, and the intricate quarterback evaluation facing the New York Giants as they contemplate drafting Shedeur Sanders.
We've explored a range of perspectives, acknowledged the inherent uncertainties, and recognized the high stakes involved in both of these situations, illustrating the multifaceted challenges of team building in the National Football League. It's never simple.
And hopefully, for you, our listener, this focused exploration of your chosen sources has provided that blend of quick understanding and insightful takeaways as we navigated the complexities and varying viewpoints presented.
It leaves us with a final thought to consider. Given the extraordinary value placed on both elite pass rushers and franchise quarterbacks in today's NFL, which of these two scenarios, the ultimate resolution of Trey Hendrickson's contract situation in Cincinnati or the New York Giants' decision with the third overall pick in the upcoming draft, will ultimately exert a more profound and lasting influence on their respective teams and the broader trajectory of the league? It's a question that has significant implications for the future.